Good morning, and as always, I am so grateful for you to join us here at the Spiritual Community Online for the next 45 minutes to an hour. My name is Reverend Richard Pacheco, and of course, we have my daughter Alicia with the music ministry, and we're having a great time here over the last couple of months, and we're moving into our last talk of the summer series. Now, a lot of other communities will end their talks for September 1st, as it is a school year. I am a true believer. I want to take it into the school year because if I'm giving you action steps to begin your school year, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, or even college, and I'm giving you the action steps to move in with, that you want to take it for at least the first couple of weeks. So we're definitely doing that. So as always, while we're sitting here having this conversation, waiting for that countdown to go down, make sure you share this out to everyone you know on social media, or even in your household that want to watch. Invite some people over for some coffee, watch it with us. And of course, always subscribe, like, and hit that bell on YouTube so you know when we drop another video, as we are still in the process of working on our weekly videos, but they will be coming up soon. With that, as always, if you wish to help and contribute to building this ministry as we continue to move and evolve, you can always go to our website, and that's at the bottom of our screen, or use the QR code with your phone. And we are grateful to everyone who has given and has allowed us to upgrade equipment and participate in a lot more to bring more of this to you as we continue to bring these Unity teachings to you. And I am so grateful to be able to do that. And finally, if you want to connect with us, you can go to our website down below, as well as hit the QR code here and go to our contact page, where you have a drop down. You can ask for prayer. You can actually leave a testimony of something that may have been said that may have helped you, that allows us to share with others how our things are working, because that's the most important part of metaphysics, is that we're using it, we're practicing it, and it's actually producing results in our life. You could also, if you wish to volunteer in any way, help as we start moving. Like I said, we are evolving. We are looking at adding a children's program. We're looking to do more and even add classes. So again, these are visions that are out there in my journal, ready to go, things I want to bring to our area, as well as the online community. So we're going to be starting with the art of science and of spiritual living. And we spoke about the positive path to spiritual living, but now we're going to talk about the actions we need to take. So I want you to remember, it's all about the practice. It's all about what we do and how we do it. So today's lesson is important because we're going to go ahead and start talking about being awake and putting that into action. So as always, stay tuned after the talk for your discussion questions and action steps. And as always, we are grateful for you being here, but I'm sure you're done with me and want to get to the experience. So let us go.
Good morning, everyone. Please join us as we know that Spirit is in this place.
Have
Our daily word for today is awake. And our affirmation is, I awake and live. Once again, our affirmation for today is, I awake and live. And our affirmative prayer is, when life seems routine and dull, to us it's because we are drifting along in habits of thoughts and activities that give us no real challenge. We are drifting along in a half-awake condition. There is far more to all of us than we ever arouse and utilize. We not only do not exert ourselves to full capacity, but we miss the wonder and joy that life has to give. To awake is to revolutionize the patterns of our lives. There is a responsive spirit in all of us. When we take the attitude of arousing ourselves to greater awareness of all that we are and all that life is, we find ourselves capable of joy in living. We awake to the unrecognized and unused potentials in ourselves. We awake to the variety of interesting things to be done in our world. We awake to the needs of others. We awake to the spiritual richness of human association. We awake to the appreciation of the creative efforts of others that lend so much value to our personal lives. And most important of all, we wake to our own spiritual selves. We awake to the Christ in us. Our verse for this week comes from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 14. Awake thou that sleepeth. Let's take some time and focus on this verse.
This day is a witness to my sacred purpose, to all that I'm meant to be. This day is a witness to my sacred purpose, to all that I'm meant to be. Letting it in, letting it flow, letting it go where it will go, letting the power of your presence show the way. Letting it in, letting you know, I'm letting you lead that I might follow, being a witness to your presence every day. This soul is a witness to my holy purpose, to all that I'm born to be. This soul is a witness to my holy purpose, to all that I'm born to be. Letting it in, letting it flow, letting it go where it will go, letting the power of your presence show the way. Letting it in, letting you know, I'm letting you lead that I might follow, being a witness to your presence every day. This life is a witness to my rightful purpose, to all that I've come to be. This life is a witness to my right. purpose to all that I've come to be. Do anything when I say what I want and I walk my talk. It all comes back to me. I can do it. I can do anything. I release, let go with the flow. This is where I'm supposed to be. Today I say I get out of my way and live the life that's meant for me. I state my name in Spirit's name. I choose my destiny. I can do it. I can do anything. When I say what I want and I walk my talk, it all comes back to me. I can do it. I can do anything. I release, let go with the flow. This is where I'm supposed to be. Right here, right now, today I choose how to be all I can be. I can heal my life, let go of the strife, embrace the mystery. I can do it. I can do anything. When I say what I want and I walk my talk, it all comes back to me. I can do it. I can do anything. I release, let go with the flow. This is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. I can do it. 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 Do it. I can do anything. Do it. I can do anything. Do anything. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do anything. I can do it. I can do it. I can do anything. Do anything. I can do it. Do it. I can do anything. I can do it. Do it. I can do anything. I can 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 do it.
So I hope the bumpers actually gave you a kind of a look at where we're going this month, because we're really going to dive into spiritual living. And as I said at the beginning, we did a whole series on a positive path to spiritual living and what that positive path was. But this next 4 talks is all about the actual act of spiritually living. So we're going to talk about a few things. And we know that Unity has some great practical exercises and principles that we can follow that help us reach the greatest meaning of our lives, making it joyous and happy, and live a full life. But the problem is when we forget that we have to actually do the living part of it. We have to actually engage in it. And I tell you all the time, and this is not to turn you off, so don't turn me off as soon as I say this. Is it easy? No. Is it worth it? 100% yes. I have gone through my ups and downs, and every minister out there, every spiritual leader, every licensed unity teacher, every new thought practitioner, and we call all of you metaphysicians because you're practicing metaphysics, has gone through this at one point. And if you've ever studied Emily Cady in her book, Lessons in Truth, she talks about chemicalization, where when the truth starts to go in, when you start to become aware of that higher truth within you, it starts to bubble other things up, bringing in that thing. But if we had all the equipment to show you the example we usually use, as you continue to put the truth and practice and all that, that becomes less and less and less. So today and during this entire talk, we're going to be applying what they call the art and science of spiritual living. And the first thing we need to do is first become awake. And again, we don't mean physically awake when you get up in the morning, but we're talking about being spiritually awake and being awakened to that higher truth within each of us of who we are and what is our calling to be. The second thing we need to do is be aware of whatever changes need to be made. So we now know the truth, but how do we get there? What changes need to be made in our lives? What situations are going on that we need to make changes? And then finally is combining the both of them so that we know exactly how we move into that spiritual living on a daily basis, day by day, minute by minute in our lives, knowing that when challenges arise, when emotions arise, that it is all part of this living and it's not something we're going to just chase away. So again, as we take this walk, first we need to know what it means to be awake. Second, we need to know what it means to be aware. And then finally putting them together so we can fully engage in being in the spiritual living. So let's get started with being awake. So let me share a story with you. It's millennia ago. There was a man who had a powerful message for the world. Kings bowed down to him and people couldn't comprehend, couldn't get their hands around this being. So they came to him and asked him, "Who are you?" But rather, "What are you?" "Are you a god?" they asked. He answered, "No." "Are you an angel?" they asked. "No," he replied. "Well then, what are you?" And to this question he simply said, "I am awake." His answer became his name, which he will be known throughout time for, which is awake. And it's literally what the word Buddha literally means. So Buddhism, or legend practiced by millions across the globe, began with a man who woke up. The shift that is wanting to take place in humankind, that is needing to take place, can only happen when we, and as we also wake up. So when we do our thing at the end, we talk about divine love through me, as me. So when we talk about waking up, we're not talking about just being awake. We're talking about being awake as ourselves and as our true selves. We need to be awake so that humankind can begin to wake up. And when this happens, and when we know that we see the changes, and what is it that we need to awaken? We need to awaken to the higher truth within ourselves. And as always, as we go through our unity teachings, you always see truth with a lowercase t or truth with an uppercase, and we're saying higher truth with a capital H, capital T, knowing where that is. Awakening to the higher truth of any experience we may be having. We must be awakened to the fact that there's so much more going on than meets the eye. I constantly talk about perspective. Our perspective is personal because it's as we see it. And if we are not awakened to our true selves, we begin to see it through the eyes of senses. And what I mean by that is we've allowed society to write the stories in our own lives, telling us what it is to see out there. Okay? We must be awakened to an idea that whatever is going on, whatever we experience, God's infinite presence is within all of it. When we talk about God as principle, when we talk about God as in everything, we need to know that no matter what we're looking at, God is in the center of it all. So, a modern New Thought mystic, Walter Starkey, I always forget how to pronounce his name, wrote a book, It's All God. He addresses the issue of being spiritually awake to higher truths beautifully in that book. And this has helped a lot of us who have actually read this book, or in my case, I used this book for a class, understand more of what it is to be spiritual living, and more intently is to be awake. So from the book, It's All God. As long as we judge in terms of good and bad, we have to perform some pretty fancy mental footwork. When we try to make what we see with our eyes conform to the belief that God or Spirit is always loving omnipotence, the only power, God or Spirit is indeed the only power because Spirit is the only cause, but just as the dark only exists in the absence of light, Spirit can appear to be destructive or creative, depending on how we judge appearances. And I want you to hear that correctly. It's as we judge appearances. In order to understand God as Spirit of love, we have to believe that there is a divine plan at work that is beyond human intellectual understanding. No matter how appearances seem to be, love is the only spirit or presence. This is where double thinking is required. It is insulating to our intellect to see our inhumanity to one another, or unequal circumstances we are born into, and say there is no wrong. At the level of appearance, wrong does exist and needs to be dealt with. However, we must simultaneously realize that there's another level at which God or Spirit is the first and only cause. When that level is realized, the hypnotism of duality is broken and appearances are healed in seemingly miraculous ways. That's a lot to take in. I hope you heard that well, because this is pretty much what Jesus said when he said, love thy enemy. And as he said, love thy enemy, we need to understand, and I've had this conversation many times with people, when we lose that level of duality and know that everything that happens is just a situation. It is just something that has happened at this moment, and we are the ones that put the labels on it. So he goes on to write that personally I remember the exact moment when this metaphysical or mystical truth broke into my consciousness. I had been studying with the mystic Joel Goldsmith for some years when one day I finally confronted him. I said, Joel, if you tell me that sickness, poverty, and such are not powers at some spiritual level, all right, but to me as a human being, they are powers. He answered, precisely. And if you want to stay a human being under those laws, help yourself, but you don't have to. At this moment, I saw that it was up to me. If I allow my spirit to be negative and destructive, that is the law that I am creating for myself. But it doesn't have to be. I do not have to be a victim of either ignorance or spirit of negativity. I can wake up, and it is my choice. Just as Goldsmith helped Stark to wake up, so did Stark help others wake up with his writing. And now, this morning, if I'm into deeper prayer, I can help you do the same. So if I want to wake up, it is my choice. It is our choice to wake up to the higher truth which is in ourselves at any moment. Remember that it always is about choice. It is about who and what we want to do. We can sit here and choose to just continue having this human experience and experience everything that comes with it, or we can take a higher look at what's going on. I know I personally am going through a challenge right now where after getting rid of all the physical things, I realize that it is an emotional attachment and possibly a spiritual work that I have to do to release certain things in my life to be the best I can be for those that I minister to. Is it going to be done tomorrow? No, it's work that has to be done. So Rabbi David Cooper wrote in the book, God is a Verb. He says one of the primary texts of the Kabbalah cries out to humankind saying, you beings on earth who are in deep slumber, awaken. It pleads with us, stop sleeping, wake up. What are you waiting for? Ernest Holmes, in his book, The Science of Mind, writes, we can sit in the shadow and move into the sunshine. Sitting in the shadow, we may not really believe that there are any sunshine, but the sun would be there all the time, and all the time that we are in bondage, The real freedom exists. It is there that we must awaken to it. So we must waking up to the truth is definitely an art because our world is ruled by five senses. Just as I said earlier, our senses is what dictates. This doesn't make any sense, but what does art have to do with sense? That's the beauty. It doesn't. So today, let us wake up to that truth. Let us take that first step and understanding that there's a higher self to ourselves. And it doesn't matter. As you can see, as we read through different people's verses, that these principles transcend not just unity, not just CSL, not just agape, not just everything. It transcends through all religions and all practices. And that's the beauty of it. When I remember that Ram Dass said, all we're doing is walking each other home. No matter what path you are, make a decision today to be awake. So now that we know that we're waking up to this truth within ourselves, let's become aware of what's going on. So a millennia ago, a rich, pampered, sheltered, wealthy young man by the name of Siddhartha Gautama awoke and became the Buddha because he became aware of suffering, of poverty, of sickness, and he wanted to do something to alleviate these human conditions. And now it's our time to be aware of the conditions that may be alleviated. So Edwin Gaines, I'm a big fan of hers. From the book, The Four Principles of Prosperity, if I'm correct. And if you ever check out her videos, she's a great person. The energy. I really wish I would have been a minister during the time where ministers used to go out to her place for prosperity training once a year. But she's in her retirement now, so those that were lucky enough to go. But, Edwin Gaines says on this topic that she says, in order to live on purpose, we must become aware of the issues, the problems, and the concerns that we are absolutely passionate about fixing, solving, rectifying, and then get about doing that, while at exactly the same time realizing there is absolutely nothing that needs to be fixed, solved, or rectified. This is being aware of the condition while being awake to the truth. So it seems almost like a paradox that even inconsistent and steeped in the law of attraction, that we may ever say that if we focus on what needs to be changed, we create more that needs to be changed. And I get that, but I believe we have a responsibility as fellow travelers that this planet to support one another, to care for one another. So we become aware of something that needs to be changed at the human level, and then stand in the truth about it and work toward that truth, not wallow in the mire of the condition. I think that's where we get into our spiritual trouble. It's fairly easy to get mesmerized by the condition and want to stay there rather than using the condition to simply identify what work needs to be done. We've heard this over and over again with me when I talk about triggers. We become angry. Why are we becoming angry? We spend so much time being angry at someone else for doing things and all that. I know that I'm that person that when I pursue something or when I'm committed to something and somebody decides to throw a wrench into it, that anger starts to come up. But I also have to realize that that's just telling me the work I need to do. I am now aware of that anger, and I need to be aware of what's actually triggering it. And hundreds of times, that trigger is something that's happened in the past that may have brought a perception of failure, a perception of lack of success, or even just a perception of lack. But because of that past, I am attached to something that's allowing my anger to come up, which is serving no one. So this is what's important. So we know that we're going to be awakened to the higher truth within ourselves. We are now going to be aware. We're not going to live in despair. I'm not feeling well, so I'm going to dwell in my sickness rather than saying, I'm not feeling well right now. What can I do to become better? Where being aware of a situation you're in, the same thing. Instead of listening to the sense consciousness around you, we continue to look at the situation and be aware of it. We're not going to live in it. So now, Let's put the action of being awake and aware. So let's pause, and I want you to think of your life right now. Is there a circumstance, a condition, an experience in your life or in the world at large that you're aware of that is not it, that is causing you concern? Is there something that's happening that may be keeping you up at night or that takes up a lot of space between your ears and concern, worry, or fear? If so, just know that it is a part of the human experience. Just in this moment, we want to be awake, aware of it. That's all. So let's take a quick moment and just think of something that is going on in your life right now. Maybe it's a situation, maybe it's a lack of something in your own perspective. And just become aware of it. I don't want you to dwell in it as, one of my favorite speakers, Lisa Nichols, always says, we can visit victimhood every so often, but we don't want to hang out here. So let's take a moment, just a quick moment, just to think about what it is that we can become aware of. So if you have that in your mind right now, I want you to bring that situation into an awakened state. Awake to the realization of the higher truth on the right and going on right in the middle of it. Talk to me for just a moment. What higher truths are you awake to right now in the situation that you've become aware of? So I know we can't share live, but think about that. Where is the higher truth right in the middle of that situation that you have now become aware of? In one of the classes that I'm trying to do a self-study online course of, it's a prayer and how to do affirmative prayer. And one of the things that's in there is that we look at different pictures and we figure where God is in the middle of it. And it's the same thing we're doing here. Where is the higher truth within the situation we brought up to ourselves? And now that we've become awake to the higher truth and bring them into the situation, we are aware of the situation must change. That's the science of our work, or as Mary Morrissey likes to say, it's the physics, not the philosophy. And as we awaken to these higher truths, we are not only supported our transformation, but my friends, we support the transformation of the human consciousness and the human collective consciousness. And I love the words from Dennis Merritt Jones in The Art of Being. Great book. It says, life really is a stream into which we pour our beliefs, and all those who come after us will be the direct beneficiaries of what we believe. The great thing is that with this awareness comes choice. As we awaken to the fact that we don't necessarily have to pass on beliefs that has not served us or others, we can choose to eliminate them from our legacy as we pass it on. The real question is who it is that lies downstream from you from that moment forward. It's never too late to change your legacy or gifts to future generations. But it's one of those things, and you've heard me say this before, where, we happen to be passing a church sign that said, remember, parents are the life manual of your children. And as a minister, we minister to many people. And we forget how much influence we have on the people we minister. And we have to come from that place of knowing that we have to work on ourselves. Not only so that people around us have the same permission to work on themselves, but as we work on ourselves and show the results, those things continue to pass down to those people as well. Great movie, if you ever want to look into that a little bit deeper, is Kumare. I've seen it on Gaia. I'm not sure if it's on any other platforms right now. Wonderful movie. Used it as a Unity movie night one time that talks about how, it doesn't matter who you are or who we are all ministers and gurus out there, the bringers of light that help influence others. So we want to do that work. And we can choose to let go what's not serving us, so we're passing on to the next generation what is working in our lives. You've heard me say this all the time, and I tell my daughter the same thing. I don't need you to repeat my mistakes. I need you to learn from my mistakes and go out and make your own. Because in making your own, you're going to learn from those mistakes, and next generation on is going to learn to eliminate those mistakes and create new ones. And that's how we experience more. As Jesus said to his apostles, you can do all that I can do and so much more. And that comes from that trial and error. And you can consider this: what happens when you strike a match? There's a critical point when just enough friction occurs to cause a spark to bring forth and fire that wasn't there a moment ago to burn brightly in front of you. And this is what takes to have a huge impact on the consciousness of humanity, being just a little more awake. When we become leaders, our job is to create more leaders who go on to lead others. It is the same with humankind as we move into the new era of consciousness. It does not take all of us to bring about change. It just takes enough of us to wake up and be aware of the innate desire to live in a world of peace and freedom and joy, and it will happen in an instant. So one moment we may still be shuffling through the shadows, and then suddenly in the next moment, inspired person breaks a lifelong patterns and opens up to higher truth. And with that simple act, the entire human race reaches critical point. A spark of light flickers, then bursts into flames, heralding a life that we all deserve, and that person can be you. I've said this many a times. All of you are my teachers, because each of you have an individual gift that you came into this life with, and it's your job to show that off. And I have learned from people who I may not speak of or speak with anymore, but because they were in my life for a time or a season, they showed me something. And it is my job to take that lesson and run with it. And in doing that, I create a spark for the next person who's listening. So there is a website that was brought to my attention. It's called the Vision Alignment Project. It's a powerful tool for people to come together and awaken to higher truths in a contest of awareness or current circumstances of the world. They have over 2 million people who align with their daily visions. If you're not part of it, I go ahead and tell you to try it. Again, it's at visionalignmentproject.com. And basically, they send you an email, I think once or twice a week. They share their vision with you, and you can say you accept it or that. One of the last visions was world peace, which I definitely aligned with. So in conclusion, let us pray from one of the prayers that I found on that website, as well as given to me, as we close out this talk. And again, make sure you stay tuned for your action steps, because you definitely want to put your awareness, your awakeness, and combined of both into action. So let's take a deep breath in and let us pray. As we say, we see a world where the human spirit is blossoming in every land, in every relationship, in every business, in every home, in every heart and mind. We see a world where people have rediscovered the joys of life, where life itself has become easier and more playful, where we flock to help one another when help is needed. We see smiles in every direction because of all humanity's burdens and debts have been lifted and put away forever. We see people excited about life, excited about their work and projects, excited about their homes, families, and communities, excited about the bright future that comes to those who really help and care for their fellow man and woman. And above all, we see something happening that hasn't happened here for ages. Our spirits are shining just the way they were meant to shine from one time we set foot in this beautiful, blessed realm. We see a world where humanity as a whole has risen above all the mundane dramas, scenarios, and realities that no longer serve us. Where we have seen the light of a new day, wherein we know that our wisest, most productive, most joyful course of action in all situations is to love each other, to serve one another, and to see everyone in the highest light. Thus, by this new course of action, we have amassed great peace, happiness, comfort, and safety for ourselves and for all living things who inhabit this earth. We all go there together. This is our intention for the highest good of all, and so it is, and so we let it be. We affirm this with an Ashe, so mote it be, and Amen. And I bid you Namaste.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. World has changed so very much from what it used to be. So there is so much hatred, war and poverty. Whoa. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. Cause they're the ones who's coming up and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be.
Na 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 na.
The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah. Just you and me.
Da 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 da.
Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who's suffering and who will catch it all the hell. They're the ones who don't too long before the judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out, they do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be.
Na 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 na.
The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah. Just you and me. Change it, yeah. Change it, yeah. Just you and me.
Change it, yeah.
Change it, yeah.
Change it, yeah.
Can't do it alone. Can't do it alone. Can't do it alone.
Do it alone.
Wake up, everybody.
Everybody.
Need a little help, y'all. Can't do it alone.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Say it, boy.
Your help.
Change the world. What it
Used to be.
So I'm glad you were here for this talk today. Now we know the difference between being awake, being alive, and actually putting it into action, as well as the song reminds us that we can't always do it on our own. So we need to wake up, but engage as a community to help each other really reach that potential to not only change our own lives, but to change the lives of the people around us, as well as the world itself. With that being said, this is the point where we allow you to into the spiritual practice of giving and receiving. And if you wish to donate to us, or if you're donating to another spiritual center right now, that is fine. We just want to engage in the practice of appreciation for that. So if you have your gifts, or if you've already given your gifts, or you're planning to give your gifts, let's virtually hold it in our hands, close to our hearts, and say together, divine love through me and as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and my awareness of all that I am. So with that being said, I'm so grateful for you being here today. Make sure you stay tuned for our discussion questions and action steps afterwards. But as always, I love you, nothing you can do about it, and we'll see you on our next episode.